Thank you so much. It really is exciting to be here at this mammoth event here in Singapore. It's not in Vegas, it's not in Orlando or Barcelona, it's in this great city of Singapore. I mean, it's amazing. Actually, I mean, it's hard to see, but just a show of hands, I know people are using the headsets. Who's hearing me in English? Put your hands up if you hear me in English. Put your hand up if you hear me in non-English language. Okay, so it looks like pretty much everybody is hearing English. We're here obviously in this track of cloud migration, and I have a confession to actually make to you right up front. I am actually a very proud immigrant myself. I actually grew up in this old city of Jerusalem, and when I was young, about 8 years old, my brother traveled all the way to Australia, and he got back to me a really high-tech present that he actually gave me. And it was a ruler that when you reflect it, you see different images. I'm not sure how many of you remember those things that you actually got. So on the front of it, it was the Harbour Bridge. And then as you actually reflect it, you see the Opera House over here. And as you grow up, obviously, the amazing fireworks from Sydney gets broadcasted to all over the world. And I grew up seeing some of these images. And I knew that that's where I wanted to migrate to. I knew that's where I actually wanted to head out. And when in 1987 I saw Pat Cash win the Wimbledon, I actually knew that actually a year later after that I ended up in Australia. And I haven't really looked back. It's been an amazing journey, and I haven't looked back. I know that Singapore and the rest of Asia, there's been mass migrations, people migrations across the globe actually, for both intra-continent as well as inter-continents within that. And if you look deep as to why people actually migrate, what's the reason behind people actually migrating, we boil it down to actually three main reasons. At the risk of oversimplifying, I know there's one is about lifestyle. Obviously, people migrate because they want a better lifestyle for their families, maybe the weather and the climate change and things like that. Another one, and this is a huge one, is about the opportunity that it provides to you and to your families, maybe to maximize the opportunity for your education and things along that nature. And finally, we know that there's a lot of people that migrate, obviously, for safety reasons. But cloud migration, I think the analogy is more like migrating into different planets, right? Migrating from Earth to maybe Mars, and maybe to the Moon, and maybe to Venus, maybe other planets when we actually get there. So with cloud migration, the migration itself is not the goal. Migration, like in normal migrations, migration itself is not the goal. It's a step that you need to get there. So when we speak to organizations across APAC region, the top reasons that we hear people want to migrate and re-platform is agility, flexibility, and automation. And the reason, and with that, obviously, comes a lot of complexity because they have a lot of legacy systems currently in place that they need to manage and maintain and need to decide how and when and where to actually move that sort of workload. But again, when you ask the other question is, why are you doing it in the first place? The key reason we see is that people say we want speed. Speed is the new black. People want to have speed of innovation, want to deliver things faster to their organizations. And again, when you ask, why do you want speed of innovation? One of the key reasons is obviously providing delightful customer experiences. In a consumer world, delightful customer experience is actually what people are thriving towards. And Amazon is a great example of that. And ultimately, delightful customer experience leads to productivity and revenue to your organization. My name is Rafi Katanasho. I'm the CTO for Dynatrace for our APAC region. I've been involved in many different startups and software to try and help organizations connect and link the infrastructure and the application back to their businesses. And I really want to look over the next few minutes that we have is what it takes, not to just migrate your cloud to the cloud, but what does it take to actually, I think, to put it in what Jeff Bezos put it, is how can you innovate at scale? How can you actually innovate at scale without falling into the trap of day two, what Jeff Bezos calls day two, not allowing you to actually continue that innovation. So, and the key thing and the key vision that we see, at least if you want to move to the cloud, we at Dynatrace transformed ourselves. We call it self-driving IT or autonomous IT. IT that it takes away from you having to worry about managing it and monitoring it and looking after it, spend more time into the innovation of it, because you need to actually invest into the software that connects with the people, and that needs to work perfectly in a cloud environment. But at the same time, we know that there's a huge amount of complexity that you're dealing with in your existing data centers. Unbelievable complexity when you add all of the different components. These are actually pictures showing you all the interconnectivity of all the components and the added layers that are coming on top of us. Now you need to look at that, you need to evaluate all of these things, and you need to be able to say, okay, well, I need to migrate this piece or this whole piece in there. So maybe you need to take a small piece out of that and say, that's the piece that I actually want to migrate. How and why and where is it going to work for us? So the key 5 reasons or the key 5 elements that we see that are foundational to self-drive IT and automation are basically what you see on the screen. Obviously, the cloud is as a foundation for fluidity and flexibility. AI, very specific AI use cases to help drive automation and provide augmentation and answers to you and to your teams. Obsessing about the customer and the customer experience. I mean, this is what Amazon has done absolutely brilliantly, is obsessing about the customer experience. And culturally, from breaking the silos and from a culture perspective, DevOps. Let's take a look at the cloud. So from a cloud perspective, and I'll speed it up in the just a couple of clicks here, we've obviously got some monolith applications, some big applications that we're trying to move. And once we actually probably move them into a cloud environment, we want to integrate and take advantage and assimilate within the cloud community. And potentially you might want to scoop out some microservices and containerize applications. And then you might want to start exploring the innovation side. So both, how can you reduce the technical debt, as Amazon put it, technical debt and cost optimization on the one hand, but how can you actually take an opportunity with the innovations on the other hand? So the left-hand side basically helps you with the optimization and cost management and to moving the stuff. And then on the right-hand side, you start actually getting true value from a cloud environment. So where do you start? I mean, the first thing you start is in your existing environments. You need to understand what is going on. You can't move stuff into the cloud if you don't understand your existing environment. You know, having a piece of, garbage in, garbage out. You're going to move garbage, you're going to end up with garbage. So you need to understand exactly what is going on in your existing environment. But where do you start? How to break it up, and how to do it in a way that is going to minimize the risks, especially on your end customers and the business. And then as you're moving, you obviously want to look at things as, how is it working as expected once you've moved it? And then you're going to look at auto loading, in terms of scalability and optimization and automation capability. So one of the first things is, leveraging capabilities to help you auto-discover your entire environments in minutes, from the data centers it's running on, to the hosts, to the processes, to potentially the containers, to the services, and the application layer that sits on top of them, and all the connectivity that goes within these systems. Absolutely critical to see how these connectivity. So you want to know what you want to migrate, but you want to know what you want to migrate to. What type of instance sizes is going to be able to deliver the customer experience that you need? Do you have current VMware workload where there's a lot of vMotion events moving workloads between one and the other? You need to understand that before you move. What type of size, instances that you actually need? You need to not just discover, but you need to baseline your entire and existing environment, all the way from the customer experience to the infrastructure and everything in between. And most importantly, you need to make sure, even once you've started moving some of that, is how are you keeping track on your customer experience? How are you keeping track on who's using it? What are they doing? Are they getting problems? Am I actually able to automate and deal with that quickly? So the experience before and after is actually much better than before you actually migrated. So you can start getting the value of where you've migrated to in here. But as I said, migration is day one, right? But you need to think about day 2, day 3, day 4, and every day after that. So you need to have a culture of being able to push things out and automate things, but at the same time maintain quality. So what you want to do is automate quality, not just automate anything, because if you automate garbage, you'll get quicker garbage in production. But if you need to automate quality, so you need to Azure, you can leverage cloud tools from Amazon like Code Deploy and Code Pipeline to be able to help you with that automation and the deployments with things like Lambda. Put that into a system like Dynatrace, then it's evaluating it and giving you the feedback. Should you actually push that into the next stage in that pipeline from a quality perspective? And then yes, no, and automate that entire process all the way to a production environment. Perhaps you're doing a blue-green deployment or a canary deployment. Understand what's the impact. Is it actually having positive impact on your customers? That's what really matters, positive impact on your customers. And then make a decision based on that, and that is the most important metric, is the customer experience in that case. If you continue forward, full deployment, or should you potentially roll back because there's some quality issues that's not associated with that. Now, once you move that monolith, you need to understand how is it architected? How are the services? Are they tightly coupled services that cannot be decoupled from each other? So if you're trying to decouple them, you're actually not doing, it's not going to scale as much because of chattiness or whatever it may be. So understand that deep architecture of your applications and understand whether you can actually decouple it. And then once you move to the point where you want to validate and optimize scalability and fluidity of the system, understand how the system scales up and scales down and takes advantage of that auto-scaling capabilities at normal load, regular load, and maybe peak load, and know exactly what is happening in your environment. Also, validate the architecture. I can't stress this strong enough. You can design whatever system, whatever processes, whatever containers and microservices. Once you put it in production, sometimes the behavior is not what you actually expect, what you originally planned. So you need that continuous feedback. This is how it's meant to be designed here. And this is potentially what it looks like when you actually put it in production. Much more complex, lots of different services calling each other, probably chatty. Maybe there's some optimization from an architecture patterns. This caching layer isn't working. It's chatty interfaces across it. Maybe there is a N1 plus pattern or anti-pattern in this case, recursive calls that are not working. Validate that architecture in production and across the entire cycle that you're actually doing. And as you move into serverless, like with AWS Lambda, for instance, you don't need to lose visibility of the quality because ultimately you're responsible for delivering the service to your customers, right? So whether you use Lambda, whether you use your own, services, whatever it may be, you still need visibility on the end-to-end capability. So get that through an automated fashion across the end-to-end piece. So that's the step number one. Step number two is all about the AI to help you drive the automation and the augmentation. So for instance, here's an example of where we see the AI. I call it deterministic AI, meaning that it can link the customer experience, the business impact, and the root cause in a deterministic fashion and provide you with a single view of exactly what happened and how it progressed through the system. So you can see here services being impacted rather than flooding your operations team and your business with events that are meaningless. Have a single event that says the business is impacted, this is the cost, this is the number of users, and here's the root cause deterministically. And even better, use that to automate the remediation that you need to take on the system. So here's an example. It's one that's impacting 335 users and about 2,000 services delivered. I can escalate that through the mechanisms that I would normally do, or I can actually see and understand the problem resolution and able to mitigate. For instance, I can see that there's CPU exhaustion on one of the nodes that's causing the escalation of that. I can actually add new service instances, high garbage collection, adjust and revert some memory. Potentially, only the blue out of the blue-green deployment is actually being impacted. Go back to the green deployment. And, you might have hung threads, restart those services, but automate that and validate whether it's working from an end customer perspective. That's what really matters, the end customer perspective. And revert back if necessary. Nothing can come at the cost of your customer and your business. You need to be able to automate with customers in mind. And see everything in a single view, right? The entire problem and the deployment that you've actually done. Capture that and how is that impacting your business, from the business impact to the applications impacted to the root cause to the problem resolution path, all available to you, all in real time. And the third and probably the most important, and you probably heard me now speak about this, is obsess about your customer experience. I can't stress that enough. Obsessing about your customer experience. Imagine having the ability to be able to see everything that your customers, being in the shoes of your customers, seeing all the interactions that your customers. This is almost like a replay. It's almost like a high quality video replay of what your customers are doing on your sites, leveraging that high fidelity data with AI powered capability to be able to give you the insights. Where my customers are coming from, are they satisfied, tolerating, frustrated? Very simple metrics. You don't need just surveys to ask your customers if they're happy. You can sift that digitally using AI and be able to make an analysis on, are they satisfied? Are they tolerating? Are they frustrated with the experience? And how can you personalize your services back to those individuals? Because you need to treat your customers as individuals, not as a number. And have analytics that sits on top of that to understand the behavior of the customers, where they're coming in, what they're using, what features are they using, as well as understand the performance angles of those customers to be able to understand, is it a specific browser or JavaScript or a certain call in the backend that I need to optimize in that. And the final two is all around the culture. And this is something that we did at Dynatrace. I'm basically sharing with you our experiences, is how we've transformed the culture of our organization in delivering what we call driverless, some people call it no ops, not even DevOps, driverless IT. So we were organized as a typical organization, very siloed. Our sales teams, our services, various teams, in different divisions vertically. We turned that on its head, and we created these product teams that leverage across the entire services with business outcomes in mind, with the customers and the business outcomes in mind. And that's what's absolutely necessary. And in order to do that, what you need to do is have the collaboration capability to empower those teams to collaborate. So it's great to have the AI, but you need to have it in a format that your consumers actually use and understand and leverage and can consume. For instance, you can use things like chat ops, like Slack and HipChat, and potentially action systems like PagerDuty. But also we've actually delivered 3 key capabilities, innovations, to transform the culture. One is, we call it the UFO. The other one is the voice-enabled capability, democratizing the data. And the third one is augmented reality that I'm going to share with you just now. So what we did is we created these devices, we call them UFO, that we put at central points in the organization. This is a picture actually of our lab. You see one of them actually coming near the coffee machine. As the coders, submit their code or commit their code, maybe it's get pushed out into production. As they go out to grab a cup of coffee, they can see exactly the stage of the process and the quality of their code that they've deployed. Right there in front of them. That changed the culture. I can tell you, it's a very simple thing to actually do, but it's changed the entire culture. So as people leaving the organization, they can say, oh, I've got an issue maybe that's impacting customers, or it's code-related issue. So let's go back and make sure that we fix it, not having to actually. So that's transformed the culture of the organization. Another key one, and I just want to quickly see if I can demonstrate that to you. And I'm taking some risks here, but this is, I'm using my 3G or 4G in this case phone with an Amazon Alexa device over here in my hand. Actually, it's an Echo Dot device that's connected to my mobile and leveraging our AI-powered, we call it Davis through Alexa. So let's take a look at what we can do here. Alexa, launch Davis. So I'll just put the volume up. Tell me about my customer experience. Alexa, launch Davis.
What can I help you with?
I hope you can hear it. Tell me about my customer experience.
You can ask me things like, were there any issues this week? Or tell me about user activity on my web application. You can also enable notifications to receive alerts whenever a new problem is detected. Please check out the documentation for more information. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Tell me about my customer experience.
In the last day, your most used application was VMware.easytravel.com, which experienced an average of 224 user actions per minute. The highest highest load was yesterday at 10:40 p.m. when 236 user actions were observed. In the next 30 minutes. Sorry, I'm having trouble.
It's probably having trouble connecting to the internet. But the idea here is, you can see we democratizing that data. The use cases for this is potentially an operations team. You've got the business team who potentially coming at you asking, how's the business doing? How my customer consuming the services? The marketing team asking certain questions, the product team and the DevOps teams. So by providing very simple, we are very good as humans at asking simple questions, right? And sometimes it can be really difficult to get the answers to that data, to the questions. But having something like this that can democratize the data, just another way of releasing that to the wider audience, is absolutely critical. Some other innovation that we've come up with is, often AI and automation is great, but sometimes you need humans to actually take business decisions. And to enable that, we've actually come up with augmented collaboration capability for the enterprise. And I'm just going to show you a very quick video that you will see over here. Hopefully the sound is clear and you can hear it. Just take a look.
And we want to show to you.
Can you guys hear it, or do we need
here? So let's have a look. There's one active problem. I put some dashboards over here.
I can't see. Can you hear it?
Yeah, the world map, the impact, and you can see impacted entities. Over here we see one active problem. Let's ask
I
Davis.
detected a problem that is globally affecting about 3,000 users. And the problem seems to be caused by the most recent deployment.
Okay, here in the world map we see the impact, like Australia, France, America.
The most affected cities are Sydney, Paris, and New York.
Yeah, here you can see the most affected cities, and the bars show the user experience and the amount of user actions. So maybe let's drill down to the problem resolution path.
After analyzing the problem, I identified an overloaded database node as the root cause.
Yeah, here using impact levels, the entry points, here's some services. And over there, the Cassandra node, let's have a look.
The commit at 2:35 a.m. increased the number of database statements per transaction.
Here's the chart with the markers. And here at 2 a.m. Yeah, there was the deployment. Let's pin this chart. So
I'll put the Git log in your cockpit. I want to spawn 3 new nodes to handle the current
see
problem. This will
the
cause
contributors
additional costs of $7,800. Do you approve?
commit to it.
Confirm by clicking the Git log.
Yes, I approve.
I can confirm 3 new nodes and database response time is back to normal. However, our product search microservice suffers from massive GC.
Yeah, it's this node now. See, product search. Have a look. Okay. Calls per minute. Can you pin it too?
Try.
Yeah. Great. Up there. Okay, here we can see this was due to the spawning of the nodes. And how's about the prediction?
The load prediction indicates a drop in throughput by 30% in the next 10 minutes. I recommend no further actions.
Okay. So, yeah, this was a short introduction. Thank you.
So this
To
is
share a
the
short
type of
introduction
innovation
for the
that we're actually trying
Dynatrace
to actually
holographic
bring for
experience,
augmented,
and we
using
want to
AI to actually empower teams. Actually, as you automate, obviously automation is the main goal here. But and augmentation, augmenting people to make right decisions at the right time. Yeah, it's been actually great speaking to you and talking to you. But just I'm curious, how many of you have don't have your mobile phones within 2 seconds away from you? Most people have their mobile phones, I think, available. So, like whether it's human migration or cloud migration, the hardest thing is obviously to get started is the initial step. So Actually, you can bring your mobile phones and just type in dynatrace.com/free trial, and you can see this for your actually selves. Don't take our words for it. See it in your environments. Light it up before you actually do those migrations, or if you've actually migrated, get that visibility online. My name is Rafi Katanasho. It's been a pleasure actually speaking to you here at this event. If you need any additional information, we have a booth. We're a platinum sponsor. We have a booth right there. You can see various demonstrations on IoT, cloud migrations, cloud operations, and so on and so forth. I hope you had some value from this, and I hope that you'll have an excellent rest of the day. Thank you.